Greetings everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, My Dress Up Darling, Season 2.
Yep, My Dress Up Darling, Season 2, Episode 6. Yeah, we're on 6. It's been 6 weeks, holy crap. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's age. It's like 900 degrees where I'm at. Again, I can't really complain because I've only had like 3 or 4 of these days as opposed to 30 or 40 of these days that we I think. So, anyway, as for Dress Up Darling, we are continuing what's going on at school with the festival and stuff like that. And Gojo is slowly losing his mind. Trying to figure stuff out while slowly capturing his mind at the same time. And, you know, trying to understand that not everybody is like his 5-year-old, you know, she's like his cousin or something. I forget what she was to him. But
I don't think it ever really actually stated in the anime. We just know that she was like the only person he interacted with, the only other kid he interacted with as a kid, and then he went full recluse.
Yeah. So slowly trying to get out of that, obviously, and it's a process, but it'll be fine. But yeah, we had some of the stuff last week that I was looking forward to how they would you know, edit with that, and we had, you know, thing going over there, and what's his name cut off Marian's head, taking the picture of the suit. He did say he just wanted to see the suit, so let's be fair. Also, the hierarchy is always grandma. Let's not forget, grandma is always at the top, yeah. Unless there's a great grandma. So either way, we're continuing the school shenanigans until we're not. But that should be, at the very least, this episode as well. If not the next one, potentially. So we'll just have to see. But if they get to the actual like pageant and festival, then probably be headed into the next set of events. But this does, like I said, it does take up a reasonable amount of chapters. So just have to see what they do with it. So anyway, as always, the link to the timer-based reaction is down there in the description, and hopefully in the first pinned comment. If it's not in the first pinned comment, that just means that, once again, like, it's taken like half the time. Like, I'll put it up on all of them, and it, like last week, it landed on like Gachi Akuda and Sakamoto days only. It's, I don't know what its problem is. So again, I don't have time to go back and relink it. You know what I mean? I get up and then I have to deal with stuff. I come in, I put the you know, post the comment for the link, and if it takes, it takes, but I can't, you know, sit there and check it multiple times to make sure it took. So it's just, if it takes, cool. If not, just bookmark my Patreon, and it's, you know, it's the only stuff on the Patreon right now, so you won't have to scroll very far for the weekly thing. So anyway, yeah, so let's push some buttons, see what's up with this week. So we'll get the timer set up, and we'll see everybody else on the other side for the discussion and review. So here goes some. Well, alrighty then. I could feel the heat dissipating from my room as this episode was going on. So I'm slightly more alive now at... What time is it even? It's 9:30 at night, no problem. That's about the time where it starts cooling down after 100-something degree day. Anyway, as for this, again, as we were mentioning there at the end of the reaction, if you watched that, everything was here in this episode that needed to be. There was nothing cut. They did a couple little additions for the school festival stuff, but not as much as I thought that they might do, which again, we mentioned at the end of the reaction that we thought that there would be like, maybe we get to see like 1 or 2 of the other acts before Marian comes on stage, and there'd be like some banter between the characters, like, oh, Marian's gonna, you know, crush that guy, whatever. But that wasn't there. But this episode filled out to the end where it ends with the picture shenanigans, with Marian wanting those pictures with just Gojo, and then that's where like chapter 60-ish ends, I believe. And then they move into the next like series of events that happens. So if they weren't gonna, maybe they could have maybe added to it, but everything that was in this episode was like shot for shot what happens in the source material. So if they didn't have time to add anything more than just those couple of little like still splash shots of the other stuff that was going on at the school festival, then that's fine. You know, the rest of it had to be in there. So this was one of those episodes where they could really add more to it. The only thing that they really did that was like extra beyond was with this character and her teaching them how to do the Rose thing. And it's just food coloring and stuff like that. But they didn't have this panel in the source material. Like they really embellished and added to this sequence.
Yeah, it's just like what they're doing the freaking puppet theater for the explanation before.
Yeah. So this was cool. I enjoyed this. And the one thing that I think they might have mistranslated, and it also doesn't make sense, is they said a rainbow rose is like 1,000 yen, which $10. So I wouldn't think that's like out of the realm of budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was 10,000 yen, okay, then I'd be like, yeah, we can't really do that. But she went and spent 200 yen on the white rose, and then, you know, obviously the food coloring probably a little bit less, so it probably came out to a little bit less than 1,000 yen total. But I think that might have been a slight mistranslation, because I believe they made it sound like this like getting an actual rainbow rose was reasonably expensive, and 10,000 yen is not reasonably expensive. Like, you can buy singular flowers, like even just like a rose, like say like one of the like crown jewel roses. I forget what like a breed of rose they are, but just even one of those, like hell, back when I was in high school, like I got one of those for my girlfriend, and it was freaking $25 for a single rose. You know what I mean? So
yeah, freaking singular rose, depending on the exact like species, can typically go anywhere from like 15 to 50.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I hear $10, like, yeah, it's just $10, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, that's actually quite cheap as far as getting a rose goes.
Yeah. So that was the only thing that I like randomly questioned, was like, did they mean 10,000 yen? Because that would be more reasonable. Of like, yeah, I'm not spending $100 on that. That's out of the budget for the school festival. But $10 for what they're trying to pull off there as like a major part of the Rei-sama cosplay, yeah, I think that'd be reasonable, because she went and spent 200 and then had to do the food coloring thing, which was probably at least another couple hundred yen. So what did she save? Like 300 yen?
Yeah, freaking. That was the main things I was questioning. Was that was in yen being very, like, really cheap for a rose, and then when she comes in and says that she got the white rose for 200, it's like,
yeah,
it's like the white roses in particular are typically more expensive. You know, the more expensive end, so you're probably looking at like about $40 to $50.
Yeah. And none of this matters. This doesn't detract from how good the show. We're just talking about like logistics and how shit is expensive these days, and questioning like what world are they living in? I want to live there. You know what I mean? This doesn't take away from the show at all. Just want to clarify, not ragging on them, whatever. I'm just saying, like, if that's how cheap stuff in their world is for that kind of thing, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, and mind you, freaking Marine has a very successful model budget.
Yeah, which she is saving up for the camera again, but still, even as a for what she's doing, those kind of model gigs can pay a reasonable amount of money. Let's be real here.
Yeah, especially if you're popular.
Yeah, especially if you're popular, and she is. But and it'd be one thing if she had to cover her expenses. And this is just another aside. This has just us talking about random nonsense. It has nothing to do with our enjoyment of the show or any at all. No objective, whatever. But Maureen's dad lives abroad, and he still pays for everything for her. You know what I mean? So her side gig, it's not like she's, you know, that's for her personal spending money. You know what I mean? So if they're going to get a DSLR, you know, $1,500, $2,000, something like that. You know, so you're talking about like 200,000 yen. She could make that in like a couple gigs. You know what I mean? Just say it.
Yeah.
So some of the numbers in this kind of like make me like raise an eyebrow from time to time, because it's like, hold on, Like when you guys went and got food, that made sense. Some of the other stuff that they brought up, like when they were at like the fireworks festival and stuff like that, I think they brought up like how much stuff costs for certain things. But then you turn around and you look at this and you go, hold on, since when is 1,000 yen expensive for something like this? What's happening?
Yeah, 1,000 yen for a rose is very cheap.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like, I actually have history with modeling shenanigans, and even freaking back in the day, like, even semi-reasonably popular freaking model, even a minor, in the case of Marine, you'd still make quite a lot out of doing those kind of shoots.
Yeah. So I'm just like kind of questioning some of the numbers like over here. Like, hold on, what's happening? What's wrong with their economy? Well, what's going on? Is Marion only making like $10 a shoot? Because that'd be like literally criminal, literally, for how popular she is. So, yeah, it's just
Yeah, no, like there's limits to how much they can like pay underage models, but even then, like you still can make quite a bit out of you just doing 1 or 2 shoots.
Yeah,
especially if you're popular.
Right. So that's the only thing that I'm just kind of like raising an eyebrow at. It's kind of whatever. This whole thing, this 100% you can do this. You cut the stem, right, and like she did, and you cut it into however many color, or in this case however many colors you're going to use, and then, you know, since it's a living thing, it's going to draw the water out of those vials with the food coloring in it, and it absorbs it into, you know, the stamen, and then up into the freaking petals themselves, and then boom, the rose will just take care of itself like it did. It's totally something you can do. You just have to set it up correctly. So that's one of those
it's
chemistry things.
Yeah, it's a similar principle to like grafting and crossbreeding.
All right. So that's how you
You're
get
just doing
like different breeds of flowers, by doing stuff like that. Super basic, you know, generalization. Obviously, it's much more difficult than that.
Yeah, grafting and crossbreeding is significantly more in depth than this, but it's largely the same principle.
Yep. So it was cool that they did this. And I'm glad they left that in there. But once again, they're not really leaving anything out. But again, we were talking about it during the reaction. It's like Gojo paints a lot of stuff on a daily basis. So him painting a couple dozen petals wouldn't have taken him that long. And like I said, it would have been an endeavor to put it back to it. The painting part wouldn't have been the problem. It would have been putting the rose back together.
Yeah, it'd be disassembling and reassembling the fake rose and not making it look obviously altered.
Yep. So once again, not really a big deal for a guy who paints several hundred Hina doll faces a day. They got a business to run, you guys. So that is what it is. But we got the rest of the culture festival stuff. You know, this guy leaving Gojo the food and stuff like that. They did a little bit more with that in the source material, but not really. Like one extra panel left out. What do you freaking do? The only reason I say that is because like Gojo makes kind of like a big deal about it, but you see him like eat the food off panel or something. It's not. The only other thing is I think they altered their like costume, I guess you want to call it, like this sports jersey that they're all wearing. It didn't look like this in the source material, but again, black and white. So yeah, that is what it is. There are only certain things that we saw in color from the source material, like their school uniform. You know what I mean? We knew that it was that like blue checkered pattern for the pants and stuff like that. But either way,
yeah, typically in manga, you only usually have like cover art and maybe 1 or 2 colored panels in a particular volume.
Yeah.
To go on for like actually getting a sense of color.
Right. So either way, they definitely enhanced this sequence here. And it's not the Crunchyroll player fading to snow. That's a new one, you guys. You guys see this? did this whole thing just die on me? I had to log back into my account because it was like telling me that I had an incorrect password, and I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? I said this is the password I use for Crunchyroll. It was very specific. You know what I mean? I have a specific password for everything. So I was like, what do you mean? I was losing my mind, so I had to reset my password, and now we got snow. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just can't get a break at all with any of this crap. It's just madness. So, yeah. Either way, like I was trying to say, they really added more to this scene with this still happened in the source material where everybody wanted to come see Gojo put Marian's makeup on because it was like really a spectacle-y event, and he was like freaking out about it, and then came to the realization that's like, you know, they helped me, I you know, breaking out of the shell basically. And he felt the pressure, but with Marian there doing it for her, he persevered and went serious Gojo mode here and got it done. But he's not used to having an audience, you know. And anybody who's been introverted or has shut themselves out from the world, hell, you know, I don't have a problem with being around people, but doesn't mean I like it. You know what I mean? If I was in Gojo's situation, I'd be out like, all right, I'd be full like Jim from The Office, you know, bragging about how, you know, on New Year's Eve, I got home at freaking 8:30 from the party that started at 8:15. But everybody was still aware that I was there and made like several cameo appearances all over the place, and it felt like I was there the whole night. And then you jump the curb to get out because Robert California is a dick. But yeah, serious Gojo, definitely a thing. But it's one of those things where Gojo is a character, and we saw it that, and it's not a thing that's out of the realm of possibility. Is they're called formative years when you're younger for a reason. And if Gojo was only around his family, and then I believe she was like a cousin or just something like that, it doesn't really matter. It was the only like person his age that he had interacted with, you know, on a regular basis for those years. And when that one person in your age group just, you know, loses their shit on you basically, which it's a kid thing, so it is what it is. But as a kid, if you don't have that explained to you, like say if his grandpa saw that happen, he could have put it into context for him, and he might have, you know, not turned out so introverted up until the point where he's Mari. You know what I mean? But kids won't, like, generally speaking, won't talk about that kind of stuff. Like, hey, grandpa, or whatever, you know, what's her name said, you know, dolls are weird, and she told me I was weird for that. Am I weird? You know, that a lot of people just won't talk about that, especially kids. So that's how you end up with situations like this, and it's not unreasonable to think that there are plenty of people out there with, you know, similar stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people are very loath to speak about their insecurities, and kids in particular don't understand what's even happening to know to actually try to get a second opinion on it.
Right. So it's just kind of one of those things where it can be headed off by a parent if they saw and or heard it. But if they didn't see and or hear it, then it's just one of those things where you kind of like see a change in your child. You gotta like literally drag it out of them because it could be detrimental to them. You know what I mean? All the way up to high school. You know, that had to have been a miserable existence for Gojo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you could just be hanging out with your kid and then find out some like weird, obscure thing that messed with them like 8 years ago that they just didn't think anything of. Right.
Yeah, and then you're just like, I could have done something about that 8 years ago. Really? It's one of those things that if I ever have kids, I'm going to beat them over the head with it. Like, hey, seriously talk to me about it. It's not a big deal. I'm freaking serious. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just one of those things for his character arc, and, you know, he's slowly working on it. But, yeah, it's nice to see progress, that kind of thing. We saw that with several other characters in several other shows. Gojo is a very well written character arc. It's one of those things where he also has to make the the effort on his end. He could have said no to karaoke, but he's trying his best to put himself in those situations and get more used to it because Marion is incredibly extroverted compared to him. It's a supporter because that's literally what he's here for, kind of deal. So,
Yeah.
but either way, this whole situation played out exactly the same. I thought we might get a couple more acts, but we didn't. But it's fine. But they nailed the sequence with the one thing they didn't say here is the girl here is like the student council president, and she had like the final say. I'm pretty sure that they didn't say she was the student council president, like in the anime. But
They didn't like say it directly, but a lot of what they were talking about.
she was like she had the final vote. Like she chooses who wins, but it wasn't. She's not just a random person. She's the student council president. Okay, so let's put that into context a little bit. So she's not just. They didn't just like randomly say, okay, Isane, go up there and you choose who wins the pageant. You know what I mean? By yourself.
Yeah, no, like she said she was the judge, but no, I don't think it was ever explicitly stated that she was the student council president. Just kind of heavily implied by what they were saying that she was the president. That's the student council president.
Right. That's how it was translated, where I read it anyway. So it would make sense. You know what I mean? But from everything that we were getting out of it, especially in the source material, yeah, she's student council president, so she has the final say. So it's kind of like who can impress the student council president the most kind of deal. That's what the whole gimmick of this was. So it wasn't like the school chooses, because once again, this is a class competition and you can't exactly have, unbiased opinions. You know what I mean? You have to have like somebody actually be the judge because each class would just vote for their person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So while the student council president probably obviously is in one of the classes, has to make a choice. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, like student council president has to be a student at the school, therefore in one of the classes. But in general, the student council is expected to be not biased towards their own class in everything, let alone something like this.
right. So either way, this whole sequence was nailed. The rap, as awkward as I thought it would be, 100%. Yep. So awkward. But again, they're number one. Hilarious that they put that little their teacher's face down there at the bottom. I thought she would show up again, but she didn't. Not even like as a good job, but like attaboy from teacher. But either way, we got the stuff with the karaoke and all that stuff. Noah, you can hear her singing from space, in case anybody's wondering. But yep, Gojo slowly coming out of it, getting used to being extroverted. He does spend his whole wallet on this plushie thing, but he does win it, and just leads into the whole photo thing, which she got dude broed really hard.
Yeah, she came this close to getting her pictures, but then she got hit by the wild dude bro encounter.
Yep. So we got the bro down as opposed to the couple not couple sequence. Real bummer. So anyway, again, they handled all this really well. No complaints. The additions that they did for the anime, solid. The rap, again, awkward, but it is what it is. Was it ever not going to be awkward? But yep. So we'll be jumping into the next set of events next week. I'll definitely reread what I need to for chapter and what, but for those chapters, should I say, and be ready to talk about and see if they add or remove anything. So, as per usual, another solid week. We're halfway through the season, so I mentioned it at the beginning of the season, and we see it's not really a spoiler. You can see it in the freaking OP. the nun cosplay. And I don't remember where that was, but if that's in this season, that is a fairly major part. Like, a lot of chapters. So, maybe in my Halid Malaise, maybe it was only like 10 chapters or something. But that's still like about 10% of the overall freaking source material. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Either way, that's all I got for this week. You got anything else, Age?
The only other thing that kind of happened this episode that we didn't really mention was the Gojo's kind of realizing that he has like more or less the same feelings for Kitagawa that he obsessive feelings that he for Kitagawa that he had for the dolls.
Right.
Initially.
Yep. That was another thing that slowly coming to realization too. But again, that will be something that is expanded upon at some point in the future. I know. Who would have guessed, right? Could you guys freaking believe that? What kind of spoiler is that? Romance anime has freaking romance happening at some point. That's insane. This isn't Rent a Girlfriend. Which props to that author for going outside of the norms and pissing off everybody. Not every ending is a happy ending, okay? I'm just saying. Have the balls to write something that has a weird ending. You know what I mean? Bravo. I haven't seen or anything. I just know that exists, and I know a lot of people are bent out of shape about what's going on in that series and source material right now. But you know what? Let's be real. Not everybody gets a happy ending. You know what I mean? So, just saying. Throw that curveball. Spite end your series like the Jujutsu Kaisen guy did and start a new one. Fuck them.
Yeah. On a random but somewhat similar note, apparently people aren't super happy with the Demon Slayer ending either.
Oh boy. Well, we had the same thing with MHA. When everything ends, if it's not what their head can't, let's be real here for a second, since you know we're talking about this stuff and this one was a little bit shorter. I see it like every time, ever since we've gotten into doing this kind of stuff on YouTube and just us talking about it more and more, and we look into stuff like that. As all these series have ended, I look at these people, and some of them have reasonable, valid complaints. It's not everybody. But let's be real. The majority of the people that are complaining about, say, the MHA ending, the Demon Slayer ending, whatever it is, they're looking at it, and if it's not their personal headcanon, then they're mad about it. It's not an objective assessment. It's not my headcanon, so screw this series, screw this author, screw everything. That's why I fear for freaking Oda, the One Piece guy, because let's be real. There's gonna be that series has had so much stuff going on in it. I bet if Luffy becomes Pirate King and finds the One Piece, people are gonna be mad about it. If he doesn't, people are gonna be mad about it. You know what I mean? So is there a win situation for him?
Yeah, he's already kind of showing some clear trepidation about ending the series, because like we're already actually past the date that he said several years ago was supposed to be the end of the series.
Yep.
And he's still going, and it still seems like he's trying to push for even more to be added to it.
Yep. So I don't know, man. It's your story, end it how you want, and it's just, I know a lot of people get these headcanons like, oh man, this is what should happen. You have to respect what the freaking author puts out there. But I mean, unless it's something unbelievably ridiculously bad. You know what I mean? And there have been those things from time to time, like say the Jujutsu Kaisen ending, but that was a spite ending. That was on purpose. You know?
Yeah.
That wasn't how that was supposed to end. That have happened because of every bullshit shenanigan that happened behind the scenes, and he was just like, oh yeah? Guess what? I'm the freaking author, so F you. You know what I mean? They're the copyright holders, he can end it however he wants. So yeah, it's just one of those things where I see a lot of people and you see a lot of these posts, and it's just like how they're arguing is like my personal headcanon didn't happen, so this is dumb. This was bad. It's like, no. You know what I mean? I kind of had the same like feeling when like how Mass Effect 3 ended. That was like one of the biggest examples of that, like that I first came across, was like that controversy of how that ended. And that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth initially. And as I processed it over the next couple of weeks, I was like, yeah, but you know what I mean? It really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't have any real problem with the Mass Effect ending initially. Admittedly, I played it later when it had already had like the update to the ending and stuff like that, which didn't really actually change that much. But it was still the updated ending. It wasn't until, because I had basically been avoiding like everything to do with potential spoilers for the game. It wasn't until after the fact that I found out that it was super controversial, and the main thing being just that basically every ending is the same ending. All your choices essentially don't actually amount to anything when it comes to changing the ending.
Right. So yeah. Well, like
Basically,
I said, it wasn't amazing, but the journey was fantastic. Ending is still paramount. Okay. Somebody famous said that. But still.
Yeah, I don't know. That one I didn't particularly have a big experience with in the negative sense. But yeah, there's a lot of examples, though, of just endings where people just kind of don't know how to end it.
In the case of Oda, I would recommend he leaves it open-ended. You know what I mean? There are a lot of series that end with like, oh, they're in the middle of something, kind of like how Full Metal Alchemist ends. You know what I mean? And then they have those like couple like little slides of like the future or whatever. It's still fairly open-ended, as opposed to just like a hard like brick wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they defeat Father, but the world is still a mess. Like nothing is really resolved as far as the world's concerned, apart from just that Father's no longer a world-ending threat.
Right. The world is still in massive flux, and Amestris is still literally in the dead center of madness.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where, again, a lot of the complaints I see is people's headcanons, you know, and you kind of just gotta, you know, I like to theorize and, you know, think about how things are going to go as much as the next guy. But if it doesn't go the way I thought, I live with it because it's not my story. I just want to see if I could call it. You know what I mean? Based on our knowledge and how storytelling is and stuff like that and what's going on. It's like, oh, this is what I think might happen. This kind of deal. If it's not, no big deal. I own up to it. It's like, well, it didn't happen. All right, no big deal, whatever. Not get super bent out of shape about it that my personal headcanon didn't turn out the way that I wanted. I'm not writing the story. I'm just watching it.
If you're not angry about the story, you're not invested enough.
Right. Yeah. Just, you know, go full ninja with that. You're not punching it through your monitor after every competitive Fortnite loss. You're not a real gamer. Anyway.
You're just not invested in the game enough. Then.
Yeah. So, yep. Either way, sorry for the tangent, but it was still reasonably relevant to what we were talking about here. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube beyond, whoever you're watching, we always appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the Dojo. And this was My Dress Up Darling, Season 2, Episode 6. So have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.